Hey guys, and welcome to another Age of Empires 2 ranked team game audio commentary. In this audio commentary, it's going to be a 3 versus 3 arena game that I played last night with my friends, and in this arena game I'm going to be playing as the Pocket Poles. And with me I have Classic Matters playing as the Flank Britons to my left, and Gerald, aka Dixie Normus, playing as the Red Turks as my right flank. Now the reason why I wanted to commentate on this replay is that when you're playing a team game with set positions, so most of the time I post nomad replays, but in other maps where there's a set starting position, probably it's one of the most difficult things to do or to execute properly is to play a pocket in the 3 versus 3 game mode, because it requires a lot of game sense to be able to read the game and to be able to decide like who to help and when, and to be able to sort of know where to go and be at the right place at the right time. And I hadn't been really practicing I have been practicing my arena booms just in my spare time, just because, and I haven't been practicing playing poles though. And poles have a very specific play style. So last year when poles poles used to be able to get, I think it was 50% when you're mining stone. Poles get 50% worth of the stone gathered as gold, or essentially a free trickle of 50% gold when villagers are mining stone. So when that bonus existed, it was super easy to play poles. It was crazy. They were an awesome flank civ because you could just drop 3 villages on stone, and you'd get enough gold to go up at like 24, 25 plus 2, and you'd be able to do a crazy castle drop. Now that bonus has been nerfed to 33%, and that makes it a lot harder to utilize that bonus in a fast castle build order. So you'll get players, I think in pro poles play, you will get one village. What the pros I've seen doing, I didn't do this in my replays. They put 1 on stone, they sell 100 stone, and then by the time they reach castle age, that villager will have gathered enough stone to be able to make 2 TCs straight away. I had my own build order where I actually put 5 on stone, and then I arrived to castle age with enough stone to make a castle. And I can also afford 2 TCs behind that, but I didn't quite execute it properly in this replay. And one of the other things that's tricky to do with poles is their farming economy is a little bit different to other civilizations. So they have a unique building called the Folwark. So if I just go into the tech tree over here, so it actually costs 125 wood instead of, if we go to say Malay, the mill's 100, and it takes a bit longer to build, but it also provides 5 housing population space, and it is optimal to place all of your farms around the folwarks as poles. So one of the things you have to take into account is you have to build multiple folwarks. So you build one initially on your berries, then you have to place them all around your base and fit farms around them. So that means that you need a lot more wood for the farming, and it also delays the farm placement, because before you place any of these farms, you have to finish building the folwark. So it's worth, like, if you're going to be playing poles in the pocket, to practice them, because it does take a bit of practice to get right. However, you can, because of how good their economy is, you can just zip in and play them and execute it at an adequate level. And I would say that, in this game, not being that fresh on my poles gameplay, I executed my booming to a satisfactory level for probably the elo that we're playing at. So I guess you consider it's good for the elo that I'm playing at, but overall just satisfactory with a lot of room for improvement. One of the things that I want to try and do in this replay is point out things that I could have done differently. Alright, so our enemies, we have the pocket is Bohemians, which is a really good arena civ, one of the best, particularly for team games. So Bohemians typically like to play into Held Hand Cannon, Bombard Cannon, or Hoofnitzer, which is their unique Bombard Cannon upgrade. Gerald's opposite flank is a Burgundians player, which is also a top arena civ. Ideally, you'd probably want to swap these civilizations around, but I guess this is fine as well. And then Matters is actually playing a Mirror Britons match against a Blue Britons player. Alright, so I'm going to go to my vlog and turn the fog of war on and start off on the replay. Okay, so my first mistake here is that because as poles you don't build farms around your TC. So ideally as poles, I would be placing these farms directly next to my TC because I have to end up deleting some of my houses that I place later on in the game to make space for farms. You really have to be a good city planner when you're playing for poles, and that's a mistake. So I should be building those houses right up against my TC, particularly at the back of the TC where the villagers aren't sort of walking through the gaps. So I've got my first sheep under the bottom of the TC, and I'm going to be pushing in my first deer. So you always want to push in your deer as soon as possible in arena as the very first thing that you do after you take your first herdable. And you want to try and get the first deer under the TC with the least amount of food possible left on the sheep. And that one I pushed in pretty much perfectly. However, it's difficult to perfectly push in all of your deer, but it does actually make a big difference being able to get them in perfectly, because it means that you get more food out of the animals. And to properly execute a fast castle build in arena, you really need to have very optimal food collection, or guest villager work time overall. So this one here, there's still a bit of food left on the original deer, and that second deer is not under my town center. So that is not a great deer push, but it's not terrible. So it's fine for this elo, but if I was doing a tight build order with like a 23+2, this would already be, I probably would have idle TC if I was going to try and click up on 23 villages. And then sometimes, because the deer is on the side of where my villagers are, it's a little bit tricky to push the deer in properly because they'll just bounce off the villagers. So I'm going to try and push in this one. However, the deer has gone to the other side of the TC. I have to garrison and try and stop it. And unfortunately, that one ends up being about 3 tiles away from my TC. So again, not a very good deer push. And I've garrisoned my villagers and dropped them out of the other side of the TC to try and speed it up. So here I'm going to have to do a bit of force dropping. So again, I've wasted a bit of food here just from these few mistakes pushing the deer. The next most important thing to do in an arena build order is to make sure that you don't get housed. So you definitely want to have a house up before the... So if it's like if you're at 15 pop, before the 14th villager is built, or I guess the 14th population worth of villager is built, you want to have that house finished. And then again, you want to try and pull in the deer directly under the TC with as minimal amount of food left on the deer as possible. So here I have, I think, 7 villagers on the boar under the TC. Again, I should have an extra one. At least you want to have a minimum of 8 up to a maximum of 10. Here I'm going over to rush up the full walk. So here, I'm just winging it because I haven't played poles in ages, but yeah, I already know that this is not good because I'm losing food from the boar by not having a minimum of 8 on the boar itself. And I've sent probably villagers to the mill, to the berries too early. So I definitely should have had a couple of extra villagers under my TC to maximize the amount of food that I get out of my boars. So that's very important. Like, it's probably the most important thing in an arena build order is to get your boar pushes, your boar lures as perfect as possible. So this one here is pretty good, and that boar is right on the edge of my TC, which is okay. It's not 100% perfect, but that's fine. So I think I've probably got 8 villagers on the... Do I have 8 villagers on the boar? 1, 2, 3, 4... Yes, so I've got 8 on the boar. That's the minimum that you want. Ideally, I'd have a couple more. Now I'm sending 6 to wood because as poles you want a couple of extra villagers on wood. I probably could have put 5 because I'm going to be going up ideally at 25 population. So 23 villagers plus 2. And I'm going to be sending 5 to stone because in my practice build orders, that's how I've gotten the 200 gold without having to make a gold mine, is that I've gotten it from the stone. Because poles collect stone, they collect gold from stone. But again, I haven't practiced my poles build order for quite a while, so I'm just kind of trying to remember what I did. And unfortunately, my execution is not perfect. And yeah, I've already made the mistakes with when I put not having enough villagers on the boar and screwing up the deer lures. Because if there was 4 deer, the mistakes that I'm making wouldn't matter as much. But because I've only got 3, you really have to execute more perfect, and I don't have any cows either. So that just means that I'm going to be a little bit tight for food because of the mistakes that I've made. So I'm getting up an extra house, and I'm going to be clicking up to feudal at 25 population, so 24 villagers and 1 scout. And I'm going to be putting a 5th villager on berries, because I accidentally queued too many to stone. Clicking up to feudal now, and just for some reason I've queued the scout to my back of my base, so that's a bit of a mistake there. I'm floating heaps of wood, so I only really need 325 wood to get to be able to make the building set up to castle. So I'm going to make a couple of farms here, and with my build order that I used to know with Poles, it did include, I think, 2 or 3 Dark Age farms. And when Poles build a farm around their folwark, they get 8% of the food on the farm immediately into their food stockpile, which is basically some free food. So that's one of the things I like to do in a Poles build order, is to build 2 or 3 Dark Age farms, just so I can get that extra food boost, because it just helps you get the amount of food that you need to Castle Age. Because if you are too suboptimal with your food collection and your villager work time in Dark Age and Arena, you will run into a situation where you don't have the food to click up to Castle Age for your desired build order. So I'm already can feel that I'm a little bit low here. Like, I should be probably about 75 to 100 food more than what I have at the moment. And I am worried that I'm going to have to queue up an extra villager. So it would end up being, instead of a 25 plus 2, a 25 plus 3 build order. So I'm going to make the extra farm with one of the berry villages just to get in that little bit of extra food. There we go. I've noticed that I'm going to be 1 vill too many. I'm not going to have the food, so I've got like 170 less food. So I've queued up 1 more villager, and I'm going to be pulling another villager from berries to build an extra farm for a total of 5 farms. So this is obviously imperfect. And then force dropping the food, I should be able to click up after this villager. Just a little bit of idle TC, just got to wait for them to finish that sheep. I've just got enough food, 803. So then I'm able to click up to Castle Age on 25 plus 3 with a tiny bit of idle TC. And now I'm focusing on the Scout War. I was chasing a Scout, and his ally from the flank has come to help. Gerald has come over to help me. We're going to try and get this scout kill, but then all 3 of their scouts are quite close together, so we are now outnumbered a little bit. I'm going to have to back off. And then Matters was saying that his scout was doing something dumb and wasn't where he wanted it to be, so we're going to try and bail to find... Actually, his scout is over in his base. So here, Green is still chasing us, so we should be able to take this fight. I am 1 more hit away from death, but if I turn around, we should be able to kill at least Green's scout, and it'll be 2 scouts against 2, which isn't too bad, and we've taken a lot of health off the enemy scouts as well. So I'd say, because Matters' scout is full health, we should be about even in the Scout War, if not slightly behind, but that looks okay. I've already got way too much stone to make a castle, but then again, I want to have 200 stone to be able to make 2 TC, so ideally I need 850 stone when I click up to castle. So I should have that in this build order. Got plenty of wood as well, so I should be right to queue up double bid axe if I have. Oh no, I've already queued that up, and then I can afford to grab horse collar now here as well, and then I won't have to wait for that to build some extra farms in Castle Age. All right, so I'm up to castle now. I'm going to delete my back walls and place 2 town centers, and I'm going to need to make a house, and then I'm going to queue up 2 villages in the main TC and get wheelbarrow. Just deleting the walls and placing those TCs. A little bit slow to the second TC. I've been finding that I really like to get wheelbarrow early in my arena booms, because it reduces the amount of farms that you need to keep 3 town centers running from 18 to 16. It also means that the villagers gather more quickly from the farms, and I just find that if I get that early, it really smooths out my arena booms. I've really been enjoying getting an early wheelbarrow on arena recently. I get it even before I get bowsaw. As Poles, you always want to get heavy plow first as your first Castle Age upgrade, because it adds, when you get heavy plow, it adds to the amount of food that's dropped off immediately from farms when they're placed around the folwark. So it's very important to get that before bowsaw. So here I am queuing up villages in my TC. I bought 100 food from the market, so I've got a bit of extra food. And as soon as that town center's up, the first thing I'm going to do next is queue up heavy plow so I can get that in. At the moment, I've only got one full walk, so ideally, I think in my practice builds that I've done before, I've had a second one already up by now. So I'm just so you can have 8 farms around a full walk that get the bonus food. So I'm getting in heavy plow now. I'm going to make the castle just next to my stone to secure my stone. So in this game, there hasn't been any aggression from the enemy team, so it's just going to be a boom war. And because I was a little bit low on the food here, I've queued up loom, which ideally I would have liked to have avoided. But I was just worried about the amount of food, just because I've only got 8 farms around my foal walk, so I really need to get a second foal walk up as quickly as possible and start getting some extra farms around it, because you need a minimum of 16 farms to be able to constantly create villages from 3 TCs. It might be a little bit less with foal walk farms actually, because they drop off the extra food at the start. But here I'm just a bit late to getting the food out. One of the things I possibly could have done is I could have maybe delayed my 3rd town centre to get the foal walks up earlier, but you know, it is what it is. And here, because of the way that I've laid out my base, I've just got a lot of like the houses are in the way. I've got the gold mine in the way, so I'm going to have to delete some of the houses that I've made in random spots. Ideally, I would have made extra houses along the wall or something like that. So one thing I've got the castle now, so I've got plenty of pop space. I'm going to send those villagers back to stone, and I've just got to focus on getting the farms up as fast as possible, because one of the things that one of the identifiers of an excellent boom is the speed that you create farms. So you need to be making a farm every 60 wood. Here there we go, I deleted my first house. I'm floating some wood, so I'm just making the farms as fast as I can with the wood that I've got, you know, making sure that I'm keeping my town centers running. And again, I'm going to have to chop these straggler trees to fit the farms in here, and the farm that I've placed on the right of that foal walk is 1 tile off from being a perfect square, so the farms are just going to be placed a little bit awkwardly. I think I had to buy an extra 100 food in this game to sort of keep my TC running, or maybe to afford one of the upgrades. But because I'm having villages on stone, I'm getting a little bit of gold income. And I'm queuing one of those villages, sorry, one of the town centers to gold at the moment, to get a bit of gold in. So now I'm getting up foal walk number 3, and I've placed it in because the golds are in a weird spot, and I've got those stupid houses there that are between the TC and the corner of my wall, which I've, you know, probably should have placed somewhere else. I've decided to put the foal walk here, and then I'll add the farms. I'm not going to be able to get 8 farms around it. And then foal walk number 4 is going to go right next to my TC. Again, I'm not going to be able to fit a total of 8 farms around that perfectly, but I'm just going to have to work with the space that I've got. So yeah, I'm floating a little bit of wood. Actually, I'm floating 300 wood, but again, I can't place the farms because I don't have the foal walk space. Well, I do have a little bit of space, but not much. Now I'm queuing up handcart and getting that as early as possible, because it really benefits the speed that villagers bring in food from farms. And if I was doing a perfect build order for like a really fast imperial time with poles, I'd probably be skipping handcart and putting more villagers on gold here, so that I can get the eco balance right. But here I'm just focused. I'm going for a bit of a later imperial age time. I'm going for the 4th town center, and I'm just going to be investing a bit more into getting the economy set up before I get to imperial, because I'm not going to have the eco balance right to be able to sort of wind it up to get a sub 27 minute imperial age time here. So getting that 4th TC up outside of my base. Again, you know, we've got a little bit of map control from Matters' outposts on the left. There hasn't been any aggression. None of the relics have been taken, so it looks like the enemy team is just focusing on their boom. So one of the benchmarks of an arena boom is how many villages that you have made at, I think 26 minutes is probably the best time to look at it. So at 26 minutes, I'm going to pause the game and we're going to look at the villager numbers from each player. So at the moment, I'm at 78 villages at around 24 minutes 30, and I've got 4 town centers creating villages. So I've got the gold mining upgrade, and I'm getting the 2nd stone mining upgrade, because as poles, they get the bonus gold from stone, and so that stone mining upgrade benefits the amount of, like, the speed that you get gold in from your stone mining as well. So it's important to grab that upgrade as well. And I know that in this game, I'm probably going to be making multiple castles because so we're playing against at one archer civ on the left. The pocket is going to be playing 100% going to be making halberdiers, and then Burgundians is most likely going to be going cavalry. But it's also possible that they could do halberd cannon or something like that. But because I'm against Bohemians, the best unit to counter Bohemians as Poles is their unique unit, the Obuch, because the Obuch absolutely wrecks halberdiers. They strip the armor from units when they attack them, and then with all the upgrades, Elite Obuch with all upgrades just absolutely wreck halberdiers. So I know that I'm going to be needing to make Obuch in this game, so I'm preemptively queuing some of those up, and I'm just starting to grab some blacksmith upgrades. Now you'll notice that I'm grabbing my cavalry armor upgrade first, again because I know I'm going to be making cavalry. So Poles are a civilization that they have quite a flexible tech tree. If we look at the Poles tech tree for a second, so they actually have a pretty good archery range. So they've got arbalest, they've got thumb ring, and they've got champions as well. But they've got supplies, so you can do champions, but you don't have the third blacksmith armor. They get Cavalier. They're well known for their Cavalier because of the unique tech with Slactor privileges, where Cavaliers only cost 30 gold. And their winged hussars are absolutely awesome as well if you get the unique tech. Absolutely fantastic. Probably one of the best trash units in the game. They have siege ram, onager with siege engineers, bombard cannon, and then blacksmith upgrades. They're missing the last archer armor and the last cavalry armor. Oh no, they do have the third blacksmith armor. So I guess you could go champions with Poles, but why would you go champions when you could go Obuch? And then got the Obuch here. So when I play Poles on arena, I tend to do it depends who I'm up against, but I usually like to go into the winged hussars because they're just such good value. But if I'm against camels or infantry, I'm definitely going to be mixing in some Obuch. If it was mostly cavalry, I might go maybe purely cavalier spam because the cavalier can cost effectively beat other cavalry. But in this game, I don't I've got an archer civ, I've got a infantry siege civ, and I've got a cavalry civ. So it's going to have to be a mixed composition. So preemptively, because I've got the castle and I'm going up to Imperial Age, I'm just queuing up some Obuch because at the moment I'm a bit slow to add in my other production buildings, but I can get some units on the field with making the Obuch now. So I'm going up to Imperial Age. It's 26 minutes. I'm starting to get out some units, which is a reasonable time. Oh, sorry, I completely forgot. I was going to check the villager number at 26 minutes. Unfortunately, I've forgotten about that, so we're just going to have a look at it now. So 27 minutes. So if we look at the villager count, so this is since 26 minutes with 4 town centers, you'll be able to get probably 8 plus villagers extra out of that time, maybe 12. So I know, because I've watched this replay before, that Blue had 100 villagers at 25-12. That is an incredible time. Have you look at his military? He's got none. Now that's not good. Whereas, everyone else, Green is also a bit slow to add military, but everyone else has got some military. Now, my allies are both very behind, so this is probably not up to standard for a 1200s arena boom, 71 at 27 minutes. So there's 3 players that are lagging behind the pace here, but I'm also my boom's not that great either. So I've gotten to 100 villagers at around 27 minutes, which is okay, but it's not great. Whereas the other players, Green and Blue, have done a much better job. However, they don't have any military, whereas everyone else is starting to make military. Alright, so now I'm starting to work on my production building. So I'm going out a bit more forward from my base. I'm queuing up some stables because I know I'm going to be making cavalry in this game. And I'm also getting in some siege workshops just in the event that I need to make siege rams, onagers, or bombard cannons, which it's possible that I may need to do. I've gotten house going up to Imperial Age, which isn't good, so I'm rushing up some houses. I've got plenty of wood to do so. And I've only got one more eco upgrade to get, which is crop rotation, which you absolutely want to get as Poles, ideally as quick as possible. So the first player up to Imperial Age is Gerald at around 28 minutes, at about 80 villages. So it's possible he might have idled his economy a little bit to get to Imperial at that time. I'm not sure. I'm just going to take the view lock off for a second and, view lock and look over here. So he's starting to get his production buildings up at the front of his base now as well. I've got some Obuch, got plus, I'm getting in selected privileges and Cavalry, I'm getting in capture ram. Again, this is one of the things that I remember Hera says, don't get upgrades that you don't need. But I'm just getting it preemptively because, you know, it's often possible that you're going to be making some rams in arena to destroy production buildings for an enemy team, and I'm floating food on poles, so I'm going to have pretty much unlimited food in this game, so I thought I may as well get it. One probably mistake that I made here is I've gotten conscription before queuing up trebs. Ideally, I'd probably want to make 1 or 2 trebs before I get conscription. Floating lots of food here as well. I think I might have ended up selling a bit of food. Then I'm getting in crop rotation now as well in early Imperial, which means that any farms reseeded when that upgrade comes in are going to have a lot of extra food made from the farm once it's reseeded. I can't remember what the exact amount was. When it was 10%, I think it was 37.5 or possibly even more than that. So it's probably a little bit less than that now, but still a good amount. So the third player to arrive so 2 of the players from the enemy team are in Imperial, and then Green has arrived now. So Matters is lagging a little bit behind. He's usually a little bit slow, usually struggles a little bit with the arena boom. But once he gets going, he's fine. So yeah, usually he arrives to Imperial between 31 to 33 minutes, usually. And then I've forgotten to make villages a little bit there, which is probably why I was floating the food, and I'm floating 1,000 wood at the moment, so I really should be making some extra production buildings. But I guess I've got the wood for trebuchets, so I've sold a bit of wood there to get some gold, so I can make some trebs. I think I sold 500 wood or something at the market to queue up a couple of extra trebuchets. I'm queuing up my cavaliers from the stables, and I am sending trebs forward on blue on Matters' side to destroy his castles. Gerald already has cavalier under his castle, and I was going to send some cavaliers over to Gerald, but I think I pulled them back. And then I'm going to focus on helping Matters getting a position on blue. So I'm just protecting my trebuchets here. So this is where I'm going to start queuing up the extra production buildings. And I'm preemptively getting the, I think it's Lycetic Legacy, the unique tech for poles, which gives the Hussars trample damage. I'm not even making those units at the moment, but I know that I will be at some stage in this game. And I had the resources for it, so that's why I'm getting it. Again, my early imp macro at the moment is not the best. Ideally, I'd have more stables, but, you know, I have units on the field, and it's more units than what Blue has here. I think he's got fully upgraded elite longbows, so I don't have the best units for taking those out at the moment, but I'm mainly just, like, these units are expendable. I'm going to be able to replace them. I've got 3 trebuchets on his castles already, with the 4th one coming in. He's got 1 trebuchet that he's not using. So we're getting a good position on blue at the moment, and here I'm going to try and make a 3rd castle on that stone. Green has a bombard cannon on Gerald's castle, and Gerald is getting doubled by green and teal at the moment. He's commenting that he's in big trouble. So because of that fact, I am going to swap from helping Matters to go over and help Gerald, and that's the thing you have to do is the pocket. Unfortunately, Green has already taken that position. I've lost a couple of villagers going forward to build the castle, so I'm going to have to build it back a little bit. However, there's a bit of exposed economy there from Green, so I'm going to go and kill those villagers, and I need to make some more farms. I don't have enough farms. I need to have, as poles, between probably 50 to 80 farms, depending on how many food units I'm making, so I'm going to be needing to make some extra bulwarks soon in this game. So now I'm starting to get some white cav, because I want to be getting the Hussar upgrade soon. The light cav's mostly just to have some units on the field. I could be making Cavalier, but the light cav will be fine, because a lot of the time I just need bodies on the field. I don't necessarily need gold units to spam in all the time. I like to have a sort of a mix of Cavaliers and light cav. I ideally would have Hussars already, and something that I know that I need to do is I need to get in the Elite Obuch upgrade as well. So I'm getting in Blast Furnace, which is final. I don't know if I end up getting +4 melee armor on my Obuch. taking down Green's castle. I'm going to take the view lock off for a second. So I'm clearing up Green, sort of cleared up his villages on the wood line. I've taken down his castle, and ideally I'm going to be putting castle there as well. But Gerald's pretty much losing his front at the moment because of the combination of Paladin, Halberdier, and the siege. So I'm going to want to group my units up with Gerald so that we can fight together, because that's how we're going to beat these guys over here, is if we take an engagement together. Now I don't have enough units over here to protect my Trebs, but I'm going to see if I can do some damage with them at least. I'm trying to spam them in, but I'm probably going to get overrun here, so I'm just going to try and do as much damage as I can. I think it was a mistake. I ended up making a mistake as to where these trebuchets were supposed to be. Oh right, they were going to be attacking that castle. Yeah, so I'm going to try and take down the Bohemian players' castles here. Spamming halberdiers in at me. I really need to get some more Obu across. So I finally got in the winged hussar upgrade, and now I've noticed, I need more farms. So I'm going to make some more bulwarks. I have drawn the teal paladins over to try and take out my siege. So for temporarily, Gerald's going to have a little bit of breathing room, and he's going to be able to start massing his units up again. So he's tech switched into camels, and that is good. He's clearing up Green because Teal has come over to destroy my Trebs that were pushing his castles. Now I've got an elite Obu, and I'm going to try and link up with Gerald so that we can push the two enemy players back from the front of his base. So I think at this point in the game, I was talking to Gerald about where we could go. And here I'm going to start building some archery ranges, and I was doing this because I wanted to try and make hand cannons. I'd actually forgotten that Poles don't get hand cannons. So here Gerald and I are trying to group up, and I'm going to start making some more trebuchets, because we're going to need trebuchets to push down these production buildings here. So I've got a couple of Trebs queued, and I was coming to Gerald that we were going to do a push from the top of his base, sort of where his stables were. Just slowly massing my units, and I'm going to bring them over. Just fixing my economy, getting my idle villages working, getting up an extra castle. And here the paladin's coming over, and I'm just going to try and group up with Gerald so we can take this engagement, because he can kill the paladins easily with his camels, but he can't take the halberdiers, so he needs my help with the halberdiers. I'm getting up heaps and heaps of winged hussars, and then I'm going to be getting lots of elite Obu, because I need the Obu to kill the hussars. Sorry, the Obu to kill the halberdiers. So here I've asked Gerald to sit in front of my Trebs, and from here we've got a position where we can push the production buildings of Green down. So he needs my help. Ideally he wants to avoid the engagement with the halberdiers, so I'm going to use my units against those halbs. So I've got my elite Obu there, I've got the winged hussars. Winged hussars do splash damage when they attack, which is really handy. They'll still probably lose to mass halberdiers, but it's better than nothing. So here the engagement is looking good. We're deleting Teal's paladins. Building a castle up behind it. I'm starting to queue up some bombard cannons and starting to spam winged hussars. And we have successfully taken back the front of Gerald's base, and now we're in a good position to push down this green castle and take out these bombard cannons. So again, I've got 14 idle villages. I need to fix those, start getting them working on something. Working on that castle. We've got lots of idle military sitting at the back there. I ideally want to group those up in front of the Trebs. And now Matters was saying that he's getting wrecked by Hoofnitzer from Green. Now luckily, I said, yeah, I'm going to come over and help you. And luckily the winged hussars do bonus damage against gunpowder. So I know that with those units, I'm going to be able to dive in and get those and destroy those cannons for him. To 20 idle villages now. I can probably delete some. Floating gold, so I've sent some to my allies. Here comes my winged hussars. There are 8 Hoofnitzer here that are about to get absolutely wrecked by my cavalry. Look at the amount of damage those units do a hit. That's crazy. 1 down, 2 down, 3 down. I'm just probably microing my Trebs there, fixing my eco. Yeah, I need another folwark up. I'm going Again, the Hussars, I think they've killed... I'm just going to take the hit. Yeah, so I've already killed it. I didn't even have to micro that. They've killed all the Hoofneitzer for matters, and they're working on the longbows as well. Each hit they're doing does splash damage, so they're doing a good job against the longbows. Another Hoofneitzer down. Teal's calling the GG. And the enemy team has the top score. But yeah, we've got them. Like, we're going to beat them now. We've gotten positional advantage on both sides back, and I don't think they'll be able to beat us from here. There's also probably maybe some of the players were struggling for gold because they probably don't have trade up. So both flanks have resigned from the game, and green is still playing on. Again, I'm just sending a bit more gold to my allies. So it's possible that green is not, like the other two players might have been on Discord together, and this guy might be on his own. So that might be why he's fighting on. That's alright, we're not going to have any trouble from here on. I love Poles winged Hussars, man. They're so good. And then I think I was looking at queuing up some siege rams from my siege workshop. Yeah, so that was that game. So I think I did a good job as Pocket to sort of get my production rolling early, and I think going forward to Matters' side first to help him get a position on blue was a good decision, because blue was ahead of Matters in the boom and a little bit faster to get his upgrades and everything ready, but because he was a little bit slow to get his production out, I was able to destroy 2 of his castles with my trebuchets before he was sort of even ready to fight, and that meant that he couldn't spam Mass Elite Longbow at Matters, who was basically playing mostly Arbalest. And then I think the combination of elite Obu with the Cavalry was really good in combination with Gerald's camels, and because I had the trebuchets, they weren't able to. They basically were forced to take the engagement against us because they wanted to kill my trebuchets. They weren't able to do it. I think they were probably. I saw that they had like bombard cannons, but I didn't really see too many trebuchets from this team. I think they definitely had some at some point, but that's one thing that they did not have enough of, is the trebuchets, whereas I made a lot of trebuchets in this game. And again, you know, trebuchets are an absolute must on Arena. So looking at the scores, I top scored in every category. A lot of that is just the value of units destroyed, etc., etc. But Poles have a ridiculous economy. So the Burgundian player actually had a disappointing economy score, because Burgundians and the Bohemian player's score is quite good, but I think that Burgundian player wasn't quite as good as the other guys. I actually had a negative KD for a lot of that game. It only sort of went positive towards the end of the game. Destroyed 25 buildings. That's because of the trebuchets that I made. You can see that the other players on the other team, barely any buildings destroyed. That's because they didn't have enough trebuchets. I had the largest army. The other players on my team were only able to amass about 40. Again, quite low army numbers from the other team as well. Not sure what the issue was there, whether it was struggling for resources or just the macro wasn't very good. Again, Poles' food economy absolutely ridiculous. Britain player has a lot of food collected. That's probably a bit too much for Britons because he wasn't making food units. So, you know, maybe he made too many farms that he wasn't using. And his wood, again, was less than mine. So that, like this resource balance for the Britain player, probably too much into food. We have the most wood collected from the Bohemian player, which makes sense because everything that he's making costs wood. Hoofneitzer halberdiers, they cost wood. He had the most stone, probably because he took that stone pile in the middle that I was going to try and take. And I had the most gold, which makes sense because I get gold from stone mining. So that's why mine is a bit higher than everyone else. So I had the best castle time, a bit of idle TC. I think my uptime with the 25 plus 3 sort of equates to about 1450. And then Gerald was first to imp, but I was about 20 villages ahead of him. With only a 30-second later Imperial time. I think ideally You know, if you're playing Arena and you're playing Pocket, you have to be up to Imperial before 29 minutes, but ideally you want to be up before that. You want to have your military production rolling before 29 minutes. So this time for me is actually a little bit slow for probably my aggregate polls Imperial time, but I haven't played them that much since the Folwarks were nerfed. So I think before the Folwarks were nerfed, I used to get 27, 28 minutes Imperial easy off 3 TCs, but I think that's been made a little bit harder because they've been nerfed. So you know, I think that I could definitely, if I practiced my polls a bit more, I could get this down to easily like 26, 27 minutes with proper eco balance. Side score had 4 castles. Matt has collected the most relics, and the Bohemian. Okay, so the Bohemians player overboomed on 162 bills. That explains one of the reasons why they lost. He just had too many villages. He needed way more helps. And there's a timeline. So yeah, I mean, you know, Arena's not my favorite map, but it is a map that I think I enjoy practicing the Arena Pocket Boom, and that's something that I wanted to demonstrate in this replay, and hopefully, you know, that was a reasonable demonstration of it at a 1200 ELO level. Thanks for watching, guys, and I hope you look forward to the next video.